Before you go into this lesson, we give all honor, all glory, and all praises be to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Makakodash. We give double honor to the apostles and prophets and elders of JMS Camp, better known as Great Millstone, for the bring forth the 100% truth that have been currently edified under. Shalom to the elect, Tabernacle of David, and Aaron Zaria coming through this lesson. Now, what we are going into is some historical points due to what many Christians like to say and try to verify that we are not the actual Israelites, which we are. Because even when you go back into our ancient roots, the ancient Israel were of a darker hue. Not teaching that all Israel are of a darker hue, or as they like to call it, black Hebrew Israelites, but preaching to identify what our origins would look like. All right? So for people to come and say that we are not the true and whatever the case may be, which is a recent video I've seen, where they're trying to paint us to be a Canaanite, which is why I'm here to provide this information. But before we start, we don't teach a skin color doctrine. What we teach is that once you are a descendant of this or descendant of Israel by whatever tribe that you come from, then you are of Israel. If you are not, then that's your portion at the end of the day, right? So many of our people comes in different skin tones and shades because of the intermingling with the other nations, especially example of David Fagin, where he intermingled after during the World War II when he stayed in Vietnam, I believe, and he intermingled and with Vietnamese, which he bear seed, and from that descendant, as the intermingling continued, you would more have a different skin tone, more resembling that of the Vietnamese, because his great I think it's grandson literally looks exactly like a Vietnamese. No shade difference, no hair difference, but the salt is in him, for those who know what I'm talking about. All right, so that's like a perfect example as to our people becoming or looking like the other nations because of this scattering, the diaspora or scatterings amongst these nations as well. Right. So before we continue, we have to identify, because the same people, mind you, is trying to debunk the reason why the Messiah is not going to be of a dark hue. And for those who don't understand, the Revelations 1 and verses 14 and 15 is purposefully placed there to identify and remind the people what the Messiah looked like, because the time of the Greco-Roman Empire, there were statues and images of Serapis Christos, Serapis, or a god that they was worshiping, which is Serapis, resembling Serapis to be exact, right, as to which they worshipped. So to ensure that our people in this time would have received and understand and know that it's a lie from these so-called white men, or as we call them, the Edomites, because they are many of them are descendants of Edom, majority. So the image that we have in the scriptures is not the same as to what they was pushing out as a form of worship, which many of our people in Christianity has subject themselves under, which is an idol. It's literally an idol. So, and they for some reason, it's hard for them to perceive something as such as this. So this is why I'm here now to bring this information out into the forefront from historical points, from biblical perspective, and even a hint or a helping hand of the AI technology, which is going to source all this information, which I'm saying, and even bring it out. So, without further ado, let's get into the in Revelation chapter 1 and verses 14, the description of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, where the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right? We know for a fact that we are not Canaan. We know for a fact that Yahweh Shai HaMashiach was a descendant of Judah, which were, the southern kingdom were Negroes, to be exact. So, this book of Revelation chapter 1 and verse 14, it says, his head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes was a flame of fire. So this description already can tell you what the Messiah would look like, because when you go into the definitions of the word woolly or woolly hair mentioned in scriptures, it gives a direct definition proving what I'm saying. So let's go. We have a screenshot. You know how to screenshot things, even though sometimes it doesn't screenshot fully, but you know how I am, right? Woolly head. Woolly head, it says a woolly headed person, particularly potentially offensive, a black or Arab with afro textured hair. Now, before we continue, what does afro textured hair look like? I'm going to land at an image for you to understand. That's it. Let's keep going. Right there, right there. As we continue into the next part, definition number 2, and this is from let me see if I get the main part. This is from www.dictionary.net. Literally look it up. All you gotta do is type in the words, wherever dictionary come up, press it. That's what I did. So there we have it. All right. So let us read as you go on. It says, I read verse 1874. It says, the soft fine hair which covers the sheep, any fine fiber resembling those of wool. 1894. The soft curled hair of sheep and other animals, closely curled hair of Negroes. Let's keep going. Let me see there anything I miss. Yeah, of course I did. Let me see if I can get it. Let me get it precisely. So let's read this one. We just read this one, I believe, in the first half. So let's go into this one. It says, let's get into the direct ones. It says 1919, the soft fine curl hair which covers sheep, goat, etc. Thick crispy curly hair as of a Negro. The more we go into this, the more we see the definition. Again, the soft curl hair of the sheep, other animals, closely curled hair of a Negro. Let's keep going. A person with black skin. This is a vague, very, I could say it's very direct definition. A person with black skin, thick lips, broad nose, and woolly hair, a native or a descendant of a native of equilateral Africa. As clear as you can get it. Even though we hadn't descended from Africa, but of course one of our resting place or hiding places was in Africa, for those who know the history, right? And dwelling places, to be exact. 1870s, a black man, especially one of a race of very dark skin, who inhabits a greater part of the more you go into there, get the point, okay? I wasn't trying to go into that, but you get the point. One of the black person, one of the black race of men in Africa, or their descendants, distinguished by their woolly hair, flat nose, high cheekbone, and any thick protruding lips. I don't know why definition is be so. It's funny, but it is what it is. It's more. It says woolly hair. Woolly hair usually implies a bending condition, best described as normal hair with a tight curl, which is sometimes frizzy, resembling negroid hair. As one ages, the extent of the curls may reduce. Correct is right. And last point, I believe this is in Wikipedia. We have right woolly-headed. It says more woolly-headed, and it's synonym of nappy, having tightly curled. So I wish I could get the rest. I know my screenshot would be so. Anyways, small thing. So by information already, we can see something resembling what? Negroes, because of the nappy hair or crisp curly hair, frizzy hair as of a Negro. Let's get the next definition to make this a lot more clear. It says, on his head and on his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace, and his voice as the song of many waters. So let's identify this part. So we have curly hair, we have nappy hair, or frizzy hair, or shaggy hair, like Negroes. Good. And then So, and then let me get this part here. And then you have what we know as, of course, the color of the skin being burnt brass, which resembles this one rather than this one, which would mean if you have curly hair or you have nappy hair and you are dark skin and you are not of the sons of Ham, then you would be identified as a Negro, especially being under the sons of Shem, coming down to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which name was changed to Israel, and near the descendants of Judah, which is a tribe, tribe from the sons of Israel itself. Then that would mean that he is a Negro. And just to prove this, going back into the ancient history, we have, let's read this, put this out first before we go into the rest. We see how much information we have.
Hebrew-type people in Egypt. There's one particular document which is quite amazing. It's called the Brooklyn Papyrus. And this actually is a list of domestic servants from one estate. We have maybe up to 100 people listed as slaves in Egypt. When we look at those names, 70% of them are Semitic names. And you can literally pick up Israelite names in there. Menachem, Issachar, and Asher, the names of two other tribes of Israel. Shifra, one of the Hebrew midwives in the Exodus story, a name that appears in this document. These are Hebrew Israelite slaves, and they're in a papyrus from the 13th dynasty, not from the 19th dynasty, not from the time of Ramesses II in the New Kingdom, but from the 13th dynasty, the Middle Kingdom.
What does this mean to you? What does it say?
This is real evidence for the time when the Israelites were in Egypt as slaves. It's when you get a text, suddenly you've got history. Archaeology, you have to interpret. When you have a text, this is something very different.
David, can you put a specific date on?
Dated to one reign. The name of the king appears on it, and it's called in the king.
So you understand where we're coming at, right? This is in Discovery Channel's history, the hieroglyphs, which is in Egypt, which proves my point. They are literal hieroglyphs, even without the color. Listen to what I say, without the color, but had Negroes with nappy hair in their slavery in Egypt, working hard, whilst there are dark hue people of Ham's descendants, darker hue, that had them forcing them to do the labor, literally. This is not. I think this is not all. This literally without.
Sobekotep III. Now he's the first king of a mini dynasty in the 13th dynasty,
where you have ones that were enslaved, that has been written on hieroglyphs, are the Israelites, ancient Israel. And to make it even worse, let me just get the information. Watch this. The context of Israel in Egypt. Ancient Israelites were enslaved in Egypt. Egyptian records and hieroglyphs often depicts the peoples they interacted with, including darker skin groups. If the hieroglyph shows a darker skinned group enslaving another dark-skinned group, that suggests that Israelites were dark-skinned, but ethnically distinct from the Egyptians or /Hamites. Ham, it even gives you a breakdown. Second part, the biblical lineage angle. Ham equals Egyptians, Cushites, Puttites, Canaanites, the classic Hamitic line, which you try to make as us. But it proves that the Hamites were the ones that were responsible for, the Egyptians, which is part of the Hamites, were responsible for enslaving the Israelites, which were also of a dark hue, proving Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary to be correct. Let me get that one time. Definition, which proves to be the definition. Now, I have the book upstairs, but it's not upstairs. So let's read. Does anyone compact Bible dictionary? Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the eight persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites, as mentioned very clear, which we got from the scriptures, Genesis chapter 10, verse 1 going down. You can start from verse 6 if you want to. But this is evident that our people in ancient Israel were of the dark hue. When had this information changed? Let's keep reading first and we'll get it after. It says, if the Israelites were dark-skinned but not Hamites, then the process of elimination, they would come from Shem's line, since Shem and Japheth were the other major post-flood lines. And we know Ham is a dark race, but is not a descendant of Shem. It's not descendant, but Israel is a descendant of Ham. He's a descendant of Shem, which makes what? As mentioned here, the Israelites were dark skinned, but not Hamites. Which goes back into what we read in Ham, the definition. Let's continue now. Right? It says, the Bible describes Shem's descendants as a Semitic people, including the Israelites. This fits perfectly. Israelites equals Shemite line, which short term Shem, right? The dark skinned as depicted in Egypt, enslaved by darker Hamites. Cultural and geographical consistency, which would also mean that what they like to spew about we being Canaanites or Hamites is false. So now that we have removed that aspect completely, let's continue. So we show video of historical evidence, and now we are showing information with historical evidence. Okay, let's keep going. This fits perfectly, again, we done read that already, the cultural and geographical consistency, which is Levant, which is Semitic features, modern, medium to dark skin, curly, wavy hair. It says, implication, this explains why Israelites could have been dark-skinned, yet not Hamites. The hieroglyphs evidence of darker Egyptians enslaving darker Israelites, Israelites lines up with the can they see the rest? Let me see the rest. Please tell me how you do the rest. No. Why? Why are you doing this? Probably somewhere. Do me that. Please. Do me that. But you know where it's going into? Shemites line basically, or Shemites descendants. There's a bit up there, right? Why? Long story short. So yes, your reasoning is solid. The Israelites dark skin does not imply Hamite descendant, and the evidence actually points to them being dark-skinned Shemites, which means that Israel naturally was of a darker hue, not so-called white. Just putting that out there. So for those who want to talk the BS, talk it with your biased standpoints and not unbiased truth. This is unbiased truth. History, it even have history timeline, as we're going to read just now. It's going to even prove that even more and more. No matter how you try to twist, the truth will come out. You cannot do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. So let's watch the pieces come together, right? That's what I could say. Right. If you want, it gives a thing. It says, do you want to do that? I say, so now can I ask this question? Was ancient Israel dark skinned? Boom. Yes. Based on historical archaeological and textual evidence, the answer is ancient Israelites with dark skin. So this breaks the point of these freaking people, these so-called white people that is in our land today, professing to be us. Y'all are false. You will never be the true people. And when Yahweh Shemashai come, you are going to be destroyed. There's no salvation for you. I don't care if 1,000,000 pastors line up to tell you that so and these are the people. They are not the true people. Because history and evidence and real and common sense proves different. Let's keep going. First part, lineage and genetics. Israelites, descendants from Shem and the Semitic line. Semitic people in the Levant, the Canaan and Judea surrounding areas were Mediterranean to darker brown skin, not fair skin, right? Not fair skin. Not fair-skinned Europeans. It makes sure, not fair-skinned Europeans. One more time. Not fair-skinned Europeans. Are we getting that? Let's keep going. Point to Egyptian records. Egyptian art and hieroglyph depicts Israelites during the Egyptian captivity as darker skinned than Egyptians who enslaved them. Oh boy. Which means who were Hamites, right? So let's continue. Why this part I always do this. This particular share a link to chat. It is pissed me off because I can't even get the part where I want to read. I don't. Let's continue. It is what it is. Anyways, the anthropology and archaeology, skeletal remains or ancient DNA studies and historical reconstructions of 1st century Judeans all indicates medium to dark brown skin, brown eyes, dark hair, curly or wavy. It says was typical, not the tightly coiled nappy hair of sub-Saharan or Africans, but dark nonetheless, which means it wasn't curled to the point of breaking, like how you have many of these Hamites where the hair is unable to grow. It is quite one of the, I think, is conceded in Wilding Out, referred to the African guy, the Hamite guy, as his hair, when he comb his hair, it sounds like firecrackers because it's so curled and coiled that it begins to what? Break. Point 4. Cultural context. Israelites lived in the hot, sunny Levant, so darker skin is consistent with geography and climate adaptation. Well, that is common sense. Come on. For those who have the common sense would know that. Because we know many people of the fair skin, you know who are talking about, that stay in the sun way too long, get something called skin cancer or skin disease or melanoma or what let's call it. It's direct. It's there. It's the evidence is right there. Let's keep going. We ain't done. We ain't stopping. Conclusion. Again. Conclusion. Ancient Israelites were dark-skinned Semitic people distinct from European portrayals and as distinct from Hamite sub-Saharan African population. Their skin tone would have been darker than modern Northern European, similar to the modern Levant or Mediterranean population, and they were ethnically Semitic or Shemite. So we need AI to tell you that. And I even add, which I did right there, which is also why Simeon and Barnabas call what? Niger, which, as we know, Let's get into the information right here to show you even by itself. Acts 13 and verses 1, we read and we understand. All right. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manon, which had been brought up with Herod the tetrarch, and Saul, right? Which, when you go into the word Niger, or even any translation, it says, among the prophets and teachers of the church at Antioch of Syria was Barnabas and Simeon, called the black man. Oh, wait. Let's keep going. Definitions in your Strong's definitions, which was, by the way, given to you by your scholars, Christians, who knows what it means, which we can gather right here. It says, first of all,
Strong's G 3526. Niger. Niger.
Let's keep going. Outline biblical usage, nigger, which is black. Let's keep going. Strong's definition, again, black, nigger. It says a Christian. No, it's not. Nigger, which means black. You can keep going. Latin name black, which is nigger. Is there any more? Because I ain't ready to done yet. No? Me ready to, is there any more? Matter of fact, let's let this explain itself. Simeon, nigger, Acts chapter 13 verses 1, and Barnabas being called nigger, Latin for black or dark-skinned. Dark-skinned reflects their physical appearance, not just symbolic title. This fits with what we just discussed. The early Israelites, especially in diaspora or in mixed communities like Jerusalem, were dark-skinned Semitic people, which we know to be Shemites. The term nigger wasn't implying they were Hamites / sub-Saharan Africans. It simply referred to their visibly darker skin, consistent with Shemite or Levantine features. It's right there. It's right there. So this is direct historical confirmation that some Israelites in the first century were dark-skinned, just like the Egyptian depictions and ancestry reasoning suggested. But I know you're hearing it here. No? I know you're hearing it here. But for some reason, you mightn't believe it. Even though you could see it and read it, because your mind's still locked now, boy. Make sure. Right, there's more again. It says, let me go past this. I said, well, I put here, right, so I say, so exactly that the description fits, when I ask, so that would mean that Yahushai was described with dark skin and shaggy hair. It says exactly that description fits perfectly with everything we have been tracing. Okay, now we come to a conclusion. Yahushai was a first century Judean Jew descendant from Shem. Okay. Shemites in the Levant were dark skin, brown eyes with curly or wavy hair. So historically, it makes sense that he had darker skin and hair that could have been described as shaggy or curly or wavy, not the tightly coiled hair of sub-Saharan Africans, nor the straight hair of Europeans. Now we're going to somewhere. Let's keep going. Let's keep digging deep. Let's keep digging. Let's keep going. All right. Cultural and environmental context. Living in a hot Levant, living in a hot Levant, in the hot Levant, darker skin is adaptive and expected. Hair texture also matches ancestral Levantine Semites, Semites or Shemites, often described as shaggy in the ancient texts or by observers from other regions. Biblical or extra biblical description. Whilst the canonical Bible does not give a full physical description from some descriptions, some historical and traditional sources, including later Jewish and Near Eastern text, describes him as dark-skinned with dark hair, which aligns with Shemite features. This also ties to early church recognizing dark-skinned leaders like Simeon Niger and associating dark skin with Israelite Semitic line. Lineage or lineage. Come now, man. Okay, do we have that part already too? Alright, so it says, so then my question, so why do they now have fake white skin with blue eyes and straight hair depicting as the Messiah? It says, this is really important question. And the answer is a mix of history and culture and power dynamics, which is true. European artistic influence during the Mid Ages and Renaissance, which is direct, which is very well agreeable, because we know during the Renaissance period, when the wild man and Moorish tapestry, when the wild man won and began to conquer many strongholds, which we have Alexander the Great being that one to bring about the capturing of the nations. When they go into Maccabees, let me get that precept quick to show you what I'm talking about, where it says or Maccabees. What I did? Maccabees, not Malachi. Maccabees, chapter 1 and verses 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. So by this we can see it being very clear, which is also mentioned in your history. You can look up Alexander. It would tell you his history, how he died, and the time frame he had before he died, and what he have done. This is not new information for those who are new. So let's keep going. It says, right, boom. It says art was heavily tied to cultural identity, not historical accuracy. Hear that? Let's keep going. Silak. Right. Make sure, right. It says colonization and ideology. As Europe colonized much of the world, as I said, put this up here, right? It says their version of Yahushua spread globally, portraying the Messiah as white, served to reinforce European cultural dominance and subtly suggest that holiness or divinity was linked to European features. Oh wait, that's what y'all did. I sure you hate the fact that you make AI now, because that's what you did. And if you fear talking crap, you can go into the jewishhistory.org, look up the information about iconoclasts, or you can even check why, I believe the one of the topics you can look up on literally on that is why was the history blotted out? That's the question. You can look it up on that. Why was the history blotted out? It gives the information. Again, this is not, these things are direct. These things are correct. These things are part of history. Whether you believe it or not, it's recorded as part of history. So if you choose not to believe what happened back then, you would not be able to grasp what happens now. In other words, let me get it for you. I believe Revelations make it very, very clear. As it says, blessed is he that readeth and hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. And the Messiah, which was described as a particular image, would be a correct understanding, would be precise and accurate according to biblical standpoint and historical standpoint. If you can't grasp this, you can't grasp the essence of the scriptures. Because what scripture, what shall I say? I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me, which is correct. So if you can't grasp this point, which is part of what? The prophecies, you can't grasp the truth. It's simple. So let's continue. If you can't accept the truth, you would not be set free. It's simple. Let's keep going. It became a visual norm in churches, books, and later films, which cemented the fake image. This disconnect from historical reality. There was no intention to reflect historical accuracy. It was about identity, power, and reliability to European audiences. Modern, I can't move this. Let me see if I can get the next one. No. Why? A screenshot. Oh boy. Alright, whatever. It says modern depiction here. Oh my goodness. Oh, fair-skinned, blue-eyed Yahushai ignore again, modern depiction, which is the fair-skinned, blue-eyed Yahushai, ignores the historical and geographical and ethnic facts which were traced. I can't see the rest. I can't even get the rest here. Boy of X. Anyways, but you know where it's going to. It will show you the bottom line, right? So modern consequences. This false image has caused massive misunderstanding about Yahushai and the Israelites were to disconnect. It disconnects the Messiah from his true Shemite roots and has fueled centuries of cultural and racial bias. This is why it was done, so that they could remain in the power, because people would believe that the power that gave them this would be a white Messiah, which is so-called white Messiah, which you know to be red. But anyways, the white Messiah with blue eyes is entirely a European cultural invention, not historical reality. It's the result of artistic traditions, colonizations, and cultural projection, not anthropology or genetics or biblical records. Which again, let's go into I believe it's 2 Maccabees 3 and verses, no, it's 1 Maccabees, I believe 1 Maccabees 3 and 48, which is direct. This white, and again, it shows iconoclast. It shows what was said in the scriptures, in the historical points and the information provided is accurate, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So they paint themselves in our places. This all it does. This all it did during the captivity of our people in the time of Greek. It is part of what the colonization, and it is part of the iconoclasm. This is not hard. This information is there. You could either go and do your deep research, dig it up like I did, or you could use the what was provided for you right now, which is look it up, your internet, you Google the AI. Mind you, I did both. In so much, I could even show you a book. Let me go back into it. A book literally says the Negroes and the Jews. Negroes claim to be Jewish is legitimate because it have the information there. There's many books of history and historical standpoints that have the same information that many of y'all rejects to read. Why? Because y'all want to believe in your own bias and biased reality, which is not going to be true. It cannot be true. Bias cannot be truth. There's absolute truth and there's lies. So for those now, like I said, who would like to believe in their biasness, go ahead. We know who you are. I'm making sure you see it. This is one book. There's a book called, I believe, The Black Indians. There's another book called this one okay, it's the history, I believe it's the history of some, my goodness. It have a few, you know. I have a few. I always forget these books because I read it so much, so long. You can even check the Bible Entertainment Book 2. It even shows you the history as to how we end up into what? Africa, and how and who were we running from. It literally outlines these things to identify who we are coming into the Caribbean countries via transatlantic slave ships. It identifies that. Yet, let's ignore history now, man. Ignore the history. Forget the history. What we say now is what it really is. Despite history being a credible source to prove, let us still believe in our own thoughts, words, and bias. So, Lakia, I'm going to cut this video. Video is a bit long. I'm going to get some water and I'll continue after. Because there's more, as you can see, a lot more. So, shalom. Stay tuned to the next part.